I'm Dr. John Gartner.
And I'm Dr. Harry Segal.
And welcome to this preview of Shrinking Trump.
On this week's show, we spend a lot of time talking about the psychological aspects of Trump's Iran decision, his what we call pathological grandiosity, and how he put us into this mess and is now hoping to get credit for getting us out of it. We'll see. Right, John?
Right. We'll see, because in addition to having created the circumstances that precipitated this crisis by having blown up the Iran nuclear deal, he's also incompetent. So he actually failed to destroy the nuclear facilities, but he insists that we all believe that he totally obliterated them.
We also have a special guest this week, an eminent, perceptive, and rather eloquent psychologist who will be here to talk about the events of the week.
Yes, you left out handsome.
Very handsome. And look at this whole issue over obliterated. If you guys don't know the sequence of this, after the bombing, Trump, Hegseth, and Caroline Leavitt all came out and said that Iran's nuclear program was obliterated. Literally, that word, obliterated. A couple of days ago, the Defense Intelligence Assessment, a report was leaked saying that actually they didn't obliterate the reactors, that it really put back Iran's nuclear program for maybe 2 to 6 months. And the Trump administration went into attack mode. They referred to the person who did this as a loser, as someone out to hurt the president. They went after CNN and Natasha Bertrand, one of the best reporters out there. If anyone follows international reporting, Natasha's the best. And CNN, by the way, to their credit, said, like fun, we're going to fire her. Anyway, here's the group talking about obliteration.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Completely and totally obliterated. We're going to really be working on that one word, obliterated, right? And of course,
yes.
Go ahead. Where did I say?
No.
Of course, the talking monkeys are going to keep reinstating that word, right? They're going to keep emphasizing the word obliterated in obedience to their furor.
And the beginning of that, he says nuclear enrichment.
That's right. There was a little mini paraphasia there, just under the radar. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
All right, here comes P.D. Hegseth.
Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated.
Boy, does he need
that word.
Hate him. Yeah, there it is. And then finally, really, the hateful Caroline Leavitt.
And just to follow up for clarity, you said, yes, it was completely and totally obliterated, because there have been different assessments on exactly how much damage has been done.
We are confident, yes, that Iran's nuclear sites were completely and totally obliterated, as the president said in his address to the nation on Saturday night.
But here's the problem, of course. It wasn't, okay? And that just goes back, and it should have been, right? You know, it's like if you take a shot at the king, you must not miss. I mean, if you're going to take this radical action, right, and make a military attack on Iran to try to obliterate their nuclear program, you need to obliterate it. Okay. So it just comes back to what we have always said. Look, the Trump administration isn't just evil. They're also stupid. And they're really incompetent.
And you know who confirmed the report of the DIA?
The Israelis.
Israel. Right. They said, oh, yeah. And you know what that means, John? It's not going to be a ceasefire.
Because they're not going to let it go.
No.
And here's the thing, because they're so performative, right? They didn't, and they have the bunker buster bombs, right? But they didn't take it from point A to point B. It's like, maybe you should have made 2 bombing runs or 3 bombing runs. Like, finish the job. Don't just drop a few bombs and then say mission accomplished, right? Because it's not. As it turns out, actually, they loaded up like 16 trucks and they were taking what might be enriched uranium out of that basement area. So something like they crushed part of the lab and a couple of the doors, but they were still able to get all the goods out the door that wasn't crushed.
No, the days before, the Iranians put the material on 16 trucks.
Oh,
and the Israelis before, and Israel knew about it. It's just extraordinary. John's right. They're not just awful, evil. They're also incompetent. They're incompetent.
And so
I'm sorry. And then they attack the press, and they say that you're not respecting the bravery of the pilots, like anyone is attacking the pilots.
Right. So here we have the press reporting on the oops, we didn't get it all. Trump reiterates claims about Iran's nuclear program that contradicts early intelligence findings. President Trump pushed back Wednesday on the findings of a preliminary classified U.S. report, insisting again that Iran's nuclear program was obliterated, despite the early intelligence suggesting U.S. strikes had just set the program back only by a few months. The Trump administration has rebuked the media for reporting on that early assessment from the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, which officials said found that U.S. strikes had sealed off entrances to 2 of the 3 nuclear sites, but not collapsed their underground buildings. When pressed on Wednesday at the NATO summit in the Netherlands about whether the intelligence report was incorrect, Mr. Trump, who has often questioned the findings of America's own intelligence agencies, said it was, quote, very inconclusive, and that the officials at the agency, quote, really don't know. There was no reason to worry about Iran rebuilding its nuclear program, he said, reiterating his claims about obliteration. So this is the gang that can't even bomb straight. And then he had to go to NATO, right? And so it gets worse. So at NATO, he's trying to bullshit all the other NATO countries into believing we've obliterated the program, and it's not working. By the end of his trip to the Netherlands, Mr. Trump seemed as focused on proving he has obliterated Iran's sites as he once was on proving that he had the largest inauguration crowd. I love that line from the Times. As part of his efforts to counter the preliminary intelligence report from the Pentagon, Mr. Trump, during his news conference, read part of a statement from the Israel Atomic Energy Commission. I don't actually have that quote here, but he actually, just so you know, he misquoted the quote. They said partially destroyed. He changed it to totally obliterated. So he actually misquoted their report. Administration officials also denied that Iran had moved its stockpile of 880 pounds of near bomb-grade fuel from storage areas in the ancient city of Isfahan and at other plants in Iran. Some American intelligence officials say they believed it was moved. And Rafael Mariano Grossi, the Secretary General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, part of the United Nations, said Iranian officials had told him the stockpile was going to be moved to avoid threats from Mr. Trump. On Wednesday, he said he did not know about its whereabouts. So he's selling this like he's selling the lie about his crowd size, is what the Times is saying. I think there's a very sort of good little tongue-in-cheek barb there.
Well, it's the way he sold that he won the 2020 election.
Right.
It's like all of his lies.
It's like all of his lies. You know, if he says it, it's true. Right. So just like he kept saying he won the election, or he had the biggest crowd size, I'm sure he's going to say over and over again that he obliterated Iran's nuclear program. And unfortunately, that will play on Fox News. That will be the story. People will believe it. And it will make him look strong.
And look, I want to go back to this very briefly, this notion of pathological grandiosity. That is,
Yeah.
Trump has to experience himself as great. He has to proclaim it. He has to be praised. He has to be getting this supply of adulation all the time. And if he doesn't, he's going to collapse. That's how narcissistic personality disorders are structured. And it's unfortunate because it doesn't allow him to be measured. I mean, all they had to do was say, we have a very significant strike. We believe that the nuclear program was severely damaged. We're going to wait and see what the intelligence reports say. And if it's not damaged enough, we'll go back. That's all they had to say. And really, it's very clear they damaged the facilities a great deal.
Sure.
That's all they had to say. But now look at this self-imposed wound.
So, of course, Trump is enraged, right? That the press is not accepting his lie, that he totally obliterated the program. So he does what Trump does, which is he goes on the attack. But listen to how angry he is at the press. You can tell this really stings.
We have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. And what they've done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now,
they're scum. They're scum. They're sick. They're trying to make my great victory into something else because they read the intelligence report. They're scum.
John, I love it when you make fun of Trump, but I don't know. It's chilling that he would say something like that. It's so direct. It's so vile. It's so, you call people scum and bad and sick people. He's been doing this for years. I never can get used to it. I never get used to it. It always offends me each time.
Well, we shouldn't get used to it. I'm glad you're offended.
And you know, Jake Tapper had a fantastic response on CNN. He took 5 minutes out of his show to talk about the patriotism of reporters who ask hard questions. That getting the information is the responsibility of a free society. It was a wonderful bit that he gave, and I was really glad to hear him do it.
Yeah. Anything that causes Trump any narcissistic injury, right? We understand this, means that that person is evil, right? If you make me feel less than perfect about myself, you are evil and you should be punished. It's such a reflexive response that it has nothing to do with reality. Obviously, in fact, what they're being punished for is hewing to reality.
Exactly. Call someone scum. I mean, as if they're just filth.
Right.
You know, there's a Nazi kind of feel to that, isn't there?
Right. Yeah. Right. So because scum is, deserving to be destroyed.
No, it's not even anything. It's just filth.
Subhuman.
Like,
it's filth.
Right. It's like calling the Jews vermin. It's like that. If he called the press vermin, I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
it's the same.
And their crime is telling the truth. So in Trump's America, telling the truth is a crime, worthy of severe punishment.
So that's the preview for this week's show. It drops. No, let me start it again, Rex. I'm sorry. I didn't do my usual thing. Hold on. Here we go. So that's the preview for this week's Shrinking Trump. Please don't just watch the preview. You want to watch the whole thing. It's a good show. It drops and is live streamed every Friday on the Really American Network at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The Really American Network is a YouTube channel. And after 3 o'clock, you can also listen to the show as an audio podcast on Spotify and Apple Music or wherever you get your podcasts. So be on the lookout for this week's episode. We'd love to see you there. Right, John?
See you there.